Hey, welcome back to Redeemed Carnivore. My name is Melissa, and today's going to be a little bit different video. Today, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to tell my story of addiction and some of the things in my childhood that has affected me to have an addiction. I do want to do a disclaimer. I'm not going to be naming names. I'm not going to be naming cities or places or jobs or that sort of thing. And it's out of my privacy. I know I'm on YouTube and I'm doing videos, but there is still a sense of privacy that I want to remain. So this is a little nervous for me, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. When I was growing up, I was in a chaotic, alcoholic home. I lived out in the country, went to a private school, hated school, was overweight all my life. I didn't have very many friends. It was like I had to live a double life because of my home life and then not to tell the secret of what happened at home. I became a counselor very young in my life to family members, to friends. I guess that was my role. I don't really know. Most addicts, when they grow up in a home with addiction, they either run to it or away from it. And I ran to it. At a very young age, I started drinking. In fact, my family likes to tell a funny story that I was crawling around and grabbed a family member's beer and drank it. They thought that was funny and cute. I started smoking when I was 7 years old. I would sneak in the car and get the cigarette butts that was left in the ashtray, and I would smoke the rest of them. I dealt with anger issues that I had to repress. I had to repress all of my feelings. I couldn't show emotion. Family members were very emotional and very vocal about it, to whereas the rest of the family could not. My grades were horrible in school. Because there was a lot of times to where I couldn't sleep at night because of family members up and drinking and partying. But, nobody ever wanted to dig deeper. Plus, you have to think it was back in the 70s and 80s, and, that time was not a big awareness, I guess. But anyhow, so I continued in school, got in trouble a lot of times for talking because I was able to talk in school, to whereas at home I was not able to talk. I had no friends where I lived. I could not use the telephone. So there was no, as a teenager and young girl, there was no telephone calls from friends or anything like that. During the summer, I stayed with my grandparents while my parents worked. I played outside by myself, or if I had a dog or a cat that came up as a stray, those were my friends. Music has always been a big influence for me. I guess because of the the feelings associated with music, and I can identify with them. So, music was real big. I never played, never. I tried to play piano, but I play by ear. I can't read notes. Um, I practiced. I tried real hard, but I couldn't grasp the notes, and my parents could only afford so much tutoring. So after that, it was basically gone. Um, High school was very difficult for me. I needed the approval of people. Still deal with some of that today. Um, People pleasing, which was because of my growing up. Because if you appease the addict, then life goes a little bit easier. Um, Met my husband. Um, I decided to get out of the household in a not very traditional way. Um, we got married. I still had issues. I thought once I got out of the household, hey, my problems were over. No. In high school, I drank pretty heavily. Um, every weekend, I was drinking just to kill the pain, just to escape. I'm sorry, I'm saying a lot. I'll try to stop doing that. It's annoying me. We got our first house apartment by ourselves. The drinking just escalated. I had a young child, which I did the best I could. There are still regrets, absolutely. I had baggage and I tried to raise a child with that baggage, and it did not help. I did seek counseling early, but for whatever reason, whether it was counselor or whether it was me, I don't know, but it did not help. I guess I wanted a magic pill or a magic wand to be waved and say, okay, you're whole now, you're good. We didn't go to church a lot. My mother-in-law did pressure us to go to church. We did go some, but as a child growing up, I didn't go to church a whole lot. It was only if family members were saying, okay, yes, as a family, let's go to church. Otherwise, no, I was not allowed. Um, Sorry. I didn't really grasp the whole church thing because I was not exposed to it quite a bit. I did uh, get saved when I was young. I did believe in Jesus. I did want him to come into my heart. There were times in my childhood to where I did talk to him, and he was like an actual person standing in my bedroom sometimes with the door closed, and I would actually talk to him. Looking back on that, that probably was Jesus actually standing there in my room in the middle of that chaotic household, trying to comfort me. I had a lot of nightmares at night when I was young. I'd be terrified. And I would always try to run to my parents for safety, but they weren't really there. They were dealing with their own baggage. So, in my adulthood, it was chaotic household. My husband grew up in a chaotic household, but in his own household, he wanted peace. He wanted stability. I didn't bring that. I grew up in a chaotic household, and I thought, okay, if everything's going well, okay, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. If I stir up the chaos and all, it will go ahead, which, now I've learned That's not good. Um, sorry, y'all. The drinking continued. The eating continued. I ate as a child because I saw my parents do that. When you have an addict, and they drink, some of them, and this is my own personal, if you're not getting that alcohol, which is a carb sugar, you're going to get it from food. Food is a source of comfort. Food has always been a source of comfort for me. It's always been a source of, this is what my parents did, so this is what I emulate. So I never thought anything about it. Continued to gain weight. I did lose some weight over the years, but it was only by starving myself, excessive exercise, not healthy ways. I did try the Weight Watchers. I did try the everything in moderation. But I'm going to say something about that. And I have been in several programs to where they say, oh, well, just eat in moderation. You're either a moderator or you're an abstainer. I am an abstainer. I cannot eat in moderation. I cannot just have one cookie and leave it alone. There's a lot of people out there that are like that. And it really bothers me when these programs say, oh, well, just eat this much. You can have whatever you want. No, it is a spiral, and it is a downward spiral. So, no, that does not work for some people. I am one that has to leave it completely alone. I cannot just have one little bitty amount. And I'll talk about in my food in another video. I don't want to get into that right now. So it was only until I was 10, 15 years ago. Well, I have not drank in quite a while, but I turned it into an addiction for sugar. And there's a lot of people that also say, oh, well, you can't be addicted to sugar. Yes, ma'am, you can. And I'm living proof. Sugar to me is like heroin. I have never been a heroin addict, but it's like I've had to literally sit on my hands and sit and not get up and go to the pantry to eat carb sugar to the excess to where I throw up. That is an addict of sugar. It is, and you're very specific with it, or I was. There are certain things that I wanted. I have a issue with peanut butter. And the reason I have an issue with peanut butter, I've never been really a big peanut butter eater. My mother was. My mother is no longer alive. My mother died 2.5 years ago. And she was addicted to peanut butter. She also had health issues that caused her to pass away and live an unhealthy life. She had addictions as well. Not like my other family members, but hers was food. So when I eat peanut butter, it's like a memory of her. It's like being close to her, but it's hurting me. It's not helping. So, that's why I say I'm specific with foods, and there's a memory attached to those foods. I've gone to counseling. I've been on medication. I've dealt with anxiety, panic attacks, depression, attempted suicide several times because I wanted help, but I didn't know how. And at the time, it was don't say anything about your addictions. Don't reach out for help. Don't, because you're a failure if you do. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That's what I was taught. You help yourself and you don't tell anybody about your problems because they don't care and they don't want to hear it. They have problems of their own. It wasn't until almost a year ago that something clicked with me with the addiction and the mindset. I went almost a year without it and I in a program, and I went back to the addiction because I was dealing with the emotions of losing my mother. And the program was great to a certain extent, but the program was not what I personally needed. There was help that I could have asked for, but it's very difficult to help somebody when you've never been in their shoes. I was the only one in that program that had an addiction to sugar. The rest of them were alcohol and drugs, which an addiction is an addiction. I fully agree with that. But there's different angles of different addictions, and there's different reasons. My reason was completely different from everybody else, and nobody's the same. Everybody has different issues as to why they do drugs or alcohol or pornography or gambling or whatever your addiction is. And everybody has an addiction to some extent. You can be addicted to your phone. You can be addicted to how many likes you get. Addiction is still addiction. And until you get to the root of it and you get to the problem of it, just abstaining from the things that trigger you is not enough. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to do it on my own instead of allowing Jesus to break those chains and to change my mindset. He's the only one that did it. I didn't do it. A program didn't do it. A counselor didn't do it. A counselor helped me, and she gave me the tools that I needed as a final straw of getting my mindset correct. Yesterday was Mother's Day. Yesterday was very difficult for me. Last year, not so much. I dealt with it. I dealt with it in a unhealthy way, but I dealt with it. This year, I dealt with it in a healthy way, and I dealt with it in the best way that I could at the time. I went to church. I focused myself on Jesus and His ability to help me. I leaned on my family. We didn't have a big to-do for Mother's Day, and I was okay with that. That is basically my story in a nutshell. I will, in later videos, I will go into some other things deeper. But if you're struggling with addiction, I understand. I'm not going to gloss over it and say, oh, well, I know what you're going through. I have no idea what you're going through, just like you have no idea what I'm going through. I will say that if you would like to reach out to me, to email me, or just say, hey, I get it, I understand, or in the comments, great. I will welcome that. My email address is redeemedcarnivore7@gmail.com. Feel free to email me at any time with comments, questions, to talk further about this if you're interested. I have no problem with that. But for now, I'm going to say thank you for listening. Thank you for coming to my channel. Please continue. I will bring more videos. I will do a video on how I eat. I'm not going to do a what I eat video because I think that gets people tripped up, or it did for me, seeking help. So I will say, God bless y'all. Have a great day, and thank you for listening.